Series 1 of Sherlock introduces John Watson, an army doctor honorably discharged from service after being injured in Afghanistan. Returning to London, Watson moves into a shared flat at 221B Baker Street with the eccentric detective Sherlock Holmes, leading to the two forming a partnership. In their first case together, Sherlock uses his masterful deduction skills to catch a serial killer who forces his victims at gunpoint to choose between two pills, one of which is poison. Whichever pill the victim doesn't take, the killer does, though no victim has ever chosen correctly. Sherlock attempts to use his skills of deduction to choose the correct pill, but is disappointed when Watson intervenes and shoots the killer before finding out if he chose correctly. As the killer dies, he reveals that he has a terminal illness that will kill him within 3 years, and has been working on the orders of a mysterious villain known as Moriarty, in exchange for his children being financially cared for after his death. In another case, Sherlock and Watson thwart a villainous gang known as the Black Lotus Tong, who are similarly working with the mysterious Moriarty. While working together as consulting detectives, Sherlock and Watson frequently cross paths with the actual detectives of Scotland Yard. Despite constantly getting in their way and withholding information, Sherlock still earns the respect of Detective Lestrade. But it's not just the detectives that Sherlock comes into conflict with, as his self-described high-functioning sociopathy also constantly bristles against the more outgoing Watson. Despite this tension, Sherlock and Watson quickly form a tight bond, leading to their kindly landlady Mrs. Hudson even believing that they are lovers. Sherlock also realizes that Molly Hooper, a specialist working in the morgue, has developed a crush on him, which he exploits to his advantage in obtaining information on victims that the police want to remain confidential. Sherlock's older brother Mycroft, Holmes, offers to pay Watson to spy on him, concerned for Sherlock's well-being. Throughout their adventures, Sherlock realizes that Watson's injuries from the war are mostly psychosomatic and disappear when he's in the field taking part in a thrilling mystery. As Series 1 comes to a close, Moriarty begins taunting Sherlock with a deadly game, forcing Sherlock to solve a series of riddles or else a new hostage would be killed. After successfully completing all of Moriarty's riddles, the villain finally reveals himself, alongside Watson as his final hostage, strapped inside an explosive vest. Moriarty explains that he is the perfect equal and counterpart to Sherlock, but whereas Sherlock uses his expertise as a consulting detective, Moriarty uses his skills as a consulting criminal. As the series comes to a close, Sherlock frees Watson from the vest as Moriarty's snipers threaten to kill them. Instead of standing down, Sherlock aims his own gun at the explosive vest now sitting at Moriarty's feet, threatening mutually assured destruction. I want to cut in real quick and tell you about this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN, also known as PIA. Whenever you browse the internet on an unprotected device, you're transmitting a great amount of information out into the open, which can be viewed by various different entities before reaching the intended website. This leaves you susceptible to hackers trying to steal your personal and private data. Luckily, PIA is a VPN service that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel, protecting you from anyone looking to steal your personal information. Basically, using the internet without PIA is like boxing without gloves. All it takes is just one well-placed hit from a hacker, scammer, or spammer and you're knocked right out. But PIA does more than just protect your data online. It also allows you to maximize your streaming subscriptions. Streaming services like Netflix have different libraries of content in different countries. So if I want to watch something that's not available in the US, I can switch my internet's location to one of the 91 different countries PIA offers. Oh, Sherlock isn't available to stream on Netflix in the US? I just need to switch my browser's virtual location to the Netherlands. Switching to the UK gives me access to some of my favorite classic TV shows to binge, like Friends and The Office. PIA is available on all platforms, and with just one subscription, you can protect all of your devices, like your phone, your laptop, your desktop, your consoles, and more. So sign up to Private Internet Access today using my link in the description, and you can get 83% off your subscription. That equals just $2.03 a month, plus they'll throw in 4 extra months for free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. What are you waiting for? Thanks again to Private Internet Access VPN for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the recap. In Series 2 of Sherlock, Moriarty receives a mysterious phone call that convinces him to stand down and allow Sherlock and Watson to escape. Mycroft, on behalf of the Ministry of Defense, then recruits Sherlock and Watson to help him after a dominatrix named Irene Adler takes compromising photos of someone in the royal family. Sherlock is tasked with finding and confiscating Adler's phone to ensure the photos can't be used as blackmail. While trying to retrieve the phone, Sherlock meets the alluring Adler, who is able to seductively distract him from his usual expert deduction skills. Adler swears that she doesn't intend to use the photos for blackmail, instead explaining that she is in danger from villainous forces and intends to use the photos for her own protection. Before Sherlock can choose whether or not to trust Adler, CIA operatives who are also seeking the phone burst onto the scene and fall into a pre-planned trap set by Adler, allowing her to escape. Months later, Adler returns to Sherlock, explaining that her enemies are closing in. She seeks help in deciphering a mysterious code she stole from the Ministry of Defense that could buy her ultimate freedom. Sherlock deciphers the code, revealing it to be the flight number of an airplane departing from London. Adler then secretly relays this information to Moriarty, as it was her that called the villain to ensure he spared Sherlock's life, knowing he was the only person who could crack the code. Moriarty had been working with a terrorist cell to blow up the plane, but the Ministry of Defense had caught wind of his machinations and staged the plane with corpses to trick the terrorists into thinking that they had caused actual casualties. But now, thanks to Adler's manipulation of Sherlock, Moriarty has uncovered the Ministry's plot and taunts Mycroft for being outplayed. Sherlock realizes that Adler had manipulated him, but when she tries to blackmail Mycroft into offering her money and government protection from her enemies, Sherlock helps his brother by cracking the code of Irene's phone and obtaining all of the government secrets contained within it. Months later, Mycroft learns that Adler has finally been caught and killed by her enemies, although secretly Sherlock had infiltrated the terrorist and saved Adler's life, allowing the world to think she is dead so that she may finally live her life in peace. Elsewhere, Sherlock and Watson continue solving mysteries together, which Watson writes about in his new blog. These exploits grow in infamy online, turning Sherlock into a reluctant local celebrity. As Series 2 comes to a close, Moriarty pulls off 3 massive heists in a row, culminating in the stealing of the crown jewels of England, before ultimately allowing himself to be arrested. Despite Sherlock testifying against him in court, Moriarty is acquitted after threatening the lives of the jurors. Moriarty explains to Sherlock that his high-profile heists were just publicity to gain himself more powerful and unsavory criminal clients. He also claims to the criminal underworld that Sherlock is in possession of a master security code that could bypass any security system, which Moriarty supposedly used in his trio of heists. Next, Moriarty begins interfering with Sherlock's cases, making Scotland Yard, including a reluctant Lestrade, to suspect that Sherlock is staging crimes to make himself look like an expert detective. And so, Sherlock's reputation is publicly ruined, and he is now a wanted man by both the police and the criminals of London. As Sherlock is at his lowest and most disgraced, he is once again confronted by Moriarty, who reveals he has hitmen in place to assassinate Watson, Mrs. Hudson, and Lestrade. The only way to save their lives is by Moriarty telling the hitmen his secret safe word, or for Sherlock Holmes to die. But before Sherlock has a chance to act, Moriarty pulls out a gun and takes himself out of the equation, leaving Sherlock only one option to save his friends. And so Sherlock sacrifices himself, but as Watson mourns his friend and partner, he is unaware that Sherlock has secretly survived. In Series 3, 2 years have passed and Sherlock and Mycroft have finally put an end to the remnants of Moriarty's network and fully absolved Sherlock of Moriarty's lies. And so Sherlock is finally able to return to his life in London. In the intervening years, Molly's obsession with Sherlock has led to her dating a man named Tom, who appears and dresses remarkably similar to the detective, while John Watson has moved on with his life and is now dating the nurse Mary Morstan, who he intends to marry. Upon the revelation that Sherlock is still alive, Watson is first furious that his friend allowed him to live in his grief for so long. As Sherlock teams up with Mycroft to take down another terrorist threat, Watson refuses to reconcile trial with his former partner. When Watson is kidnapped by a mysterious villain, Sherlock teams up with Mary to rescue him. Ultimately, Sherlock defeats the new terrorist threat and even tricks Watson into confessing how much he cares for and miss Sherlock in his absence. With everyone reunited and everything back to normal, Watson and Mary have their wedding day. Sherlock serves as best man and in unsurprising fashion even uses his loving and considerate speech to solve an additional case. With Watson and Mary now happily man and wife, Sherlock uses his deduction skills to discover that Mary is pregnant. As the newlyweds celebrate this news, Sherlock is left alone to contemplate the fact that his partnership with Watson will never be the same. A month after the wedding, Sherlock has stopped all contact with Watson and gone undercover for a new case. Watson finds the undercover Sherlock abusing drugs in a crack den and scolds his friend for going too far. Mycroft realizes that Sherlock is attempting to take on the villainous Charles Augustus Magnusson, a newspaper magnate who uses his sources to blackmail people and had been the mystery assailant who previously kidnapped John Watson to deduce Sherlock's ultimate weakness for his friend. Mycroft warns Sherlock that Magnusson is too dangerous and should not be provoked, but to no avail. After breaking into Magnusson's apartment, Sherlock discovers the villain shockingly being held at gunpoint by none other than Mary Watson. Mary then shoots Sherlock, who retreats into his mind palace to stay alive, thanks to the encouragement and taunts of a vision of Moriarty. Ultimately, Sherlock survives the shooting and reveals the truth of Mary to Watson. Mary confesses that she is a former assassin who assumed the name Mary and genuinely fell in love with Watson in an attempt to live a normal life. But Magnusson has blackmail on her that could ruin everything good she has built for herself. Although Watson is reluctant to trust his wife, Sherlock encourages him toward reconciliation with the knowledge that Mary had intentionally shot him in a way to injure but not kill, and had called the ambulance that saved his life. As Series 3 comes to a close, Sherlock and Watson steal Mycroft's laptop filled with government secrets in the hopes of trading it to Magnusson for all of the blackmail on Mary. Unfortunately, Magnusson reveals that he has no physical blackmail on Mary or any of his other targets, but instead remembers and stores it all in his own mind palace. And now that he has Mycroft's laptop, Sherlock and Watson can be found guilty of selling government secrets, all of which Magnusson can use to further his villainous machinations. As Mycroft and the police arrive, Sherlock is reluctantly forced to shoot and kill Magnusson in cold blood, ensuring that all of his allies are free from his scheming control. Mycroft manages to help Sherlock evade a formal trial for the killing to instead serve in a dangerous MI6 mission in Eastern Europe. But before Sherlock departs, a video of the late Moriarty is broadcast all throughout Great Britain, taunting Sherlock into engaging in one final game of cat and mouse. In Series 4, Sherlock Holmes dedicates his focus toward uncovering Moriarty's new villainous plot. Sherlock deduces that Moriarty had pre-recorded a series of videos before his death, but is still unsure of what they mean. And so, while awaiting more posthumous clues from Moriarty, Sherlock continues solving cases for both Mycroft and Scotland Yard. One such case leads Sherlock to discover more secrets about the top-secret organization Agra, which Mary had been a part of in her previous life of crime. One of Mary's former teammates, AJ, falsely believes that Mary had betrayed Agra and gotten the rest of their team killed, and is now looking for revenge. Sherlock and Watson help save Mary, then discover that the real traitor was a woman named Vivian, who had been exposed for selling government secrets and wanted to wipe out anyone who could tie her to the crime. Her crimes exposed, Vivian shoots at Sherlock, but Mary sacrifices herself to save him. Watson is heartbroken by his wife's death and blames Sherlock for the loss, no longer wanting anything to do with him. Following the fracturing of their friendship, Sherlock falls into heavy drug use, while Watson falls into a depression, haunted by hallucinations of Mary while raising their newborn daughter Rosamond. Amidst this emotional and relational turmoil, Sherlock takes on a new case to catch a serial killer named Culverton Smith, and tries to get Watson to partner with him one final time. Unfortunately, Watson is resistant to joining Sherlock, who succumbs further into his drug addiction and is hospitalized. Smith visits Sherlock at the hospital to taunt him with the truth of his killings, before attempting to smother Sherlock and make him his next victim. Meanwhile, Watson discovers a video message that Mary had posthumously left to Sherlock, encouraging him to put his life life in danger so that Watson could be the hero and save their friendship. And so, inspired by his late wife, Watson races to the hospital and saves Sherlock. Sherlock reveals that he had secretly recorded Smith's confession, ensuring his conviction, and then reconciles with Watson, comforting his grieving friend. As the series comes to a close, Sherlock is pulled into one final case, this time involving his long-lost sister, Eurus. Eurus Holmes was born a genius, much like Sherlock and Mycroft, but lacked normal human emotion. After increasingly sinister behavior as a child, including killing Sherlock's dog Redbeard and burning down the family home, the Holmes parents had Eurus shipped off to a mental institution, before Mycroft had her secretly transferred to a black site prison. As Mycroft explains all of this to Sherlock and Watson, they are attacked by a drone which blows up Sherlock's flat at 221B Baker Street. Sherlock, Watson, and Mycroft visit Eurus in prison, only to discover that she has manipulated the guards into doing her bidding. They lock Sherlock, Watson, and Mycroft in a cell, where Eurus explains that she was the one behind Moriarty's posthumous video messages, all in an effort to taunt her brother and draw him into her sinister plot. As Eurus forces the trio into playing a series of deadly games for her own amusement, Sherlock realizes that as a child, Eurus hadn't killed his dog, but his best friend Victor out of jealousy. Sherlock had simply rewired his own mind to forget the traumatic ordeal. Now, Sherlock realizes that his sister's games are simply a cry for help and attention from her family. As Sherlock shows his sister the love she has always desired, Eurus stands down and frees Watson and Mycroft. In turn, Eurus is sent back to prison, but now comforted by visits from her brother. In the end, Watson helps Sherlock rebuild the destroyed flat on Baker Street, where together they watch a final posthumous video message from Mary, who encourages them to continue their partnership and bring more criminals to justice.